This is the Son of the Law podcast. Hey everyone, welcome. Welcome to the Son of the Law podcast. I'm your host, Jay Christopher. And before we get started here, I want to say thanks to our sponsors, Complete Auto Service Center in Richmond, Missouri, and Cutting Edge Landscapes in Lawson, Missouri. This episode is brought to you by Complete Auto Service Center. I want to share something close to home, literally. If you're anywhere near Richmond, Missouri, and your vehicle needs attention, there's a place that embodies trust and integrity, Complete Auto Service Center. I've known Mark and Amanda for years, and they make me feel like I'm part of their family. From oil changes to engine replacements, brakes to transmissions, they handle it all with professionalism and care. Their certified techs use quality parts, and they stand behind their work with a 36-month, 36,000-mile warranty. But it's more than just repairs. It's about peace of mind. It's about knowing that your vehicle is in the hands of people who value honesty and excellence. So, if you're seeking a reliable partner for your automotive needs, visit CompleteASC.com or stop by 718 Woolard Boulevard. Let them earn your trust, your business, and your friendship. Complete Auto Service Center. Complete maintenance, complete repairs, complete peace of mind. This episode is brought to you by Cutting Edge Landscapes. I've known Brandon Steffen, the owner of Cutting Edge Landscapes, for over 15 years. We've seen each other through a lot, climbed mountains together, served together, and when it came time to trust someone with my lawn, there was no question. I turned to Brandon and his team. Let me tell you, the difference after just one application was truly incredible. My yard went from weedy and full of dandelions to lush and vibrant. It was green, like really green. Also, I fought the bag system for years, never really seeing the results I wanted, but it has new life now, and that's all thanks to Cutting Edge. Cutting Edge isn't just about landscape projects either. They're about building relationships and treating your property like it's their own. Whether it's fertilization, aeration, or seasonal treatments, they tailor their services to what your lawn truly needs. With over 40 years in the business, Cutting Edge Landscape stands by their motto, "Your property is our passion." And after seeing the results firsthand, I can vouch for that. Visit callcuttingedge.com or 816-580-3343 to schedule your consultation. Your lawn will thank you. Want to ask you to please talk about us with your friends and share the show across the platforms, whether or not that's Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or your podcast player. Encourage people to follow and turn those notifications on so that you can be ready for the next episode. We drop every other Monday at 6 a.m. so the drive to work or never miss a Monday workout can be extra special. All right, joining me in the podcast studio, otherwise known as my home basement, is Ed Duncan. What's up, Ed?
Not a whole lot, just keeping busy.
Just keeping busy. We're glad to have you here. This is a real treat for me. I've known you for a lot of years since we moved to town. You've been really special to my family, and so looking forward to a good dialogue with you today. I want to introduce you. I'll start by saying that I was shocked when I was, fumbling through the middle school and waiting on a kid playing basketball or doing something. And I looked up, and on the wall, there's a picture of you from like 1970. Let's say 75. I don't know. It's sometime between 70 and 85. But
85.
85. Okay. So I missed it by about 5 years, but that's okay. You look a little bit younger than you do now. But as I've talked with different people, everybody says you look the same, and that's a compliment, I think. So
yeah, I hope.
You've looked the same since they've known you, and everybody knows you, which is super fun. You are a staple in the Lawson community. A couple things. You were the principal of the middle school.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's back when the middle school was located on 4th Street.
Yes.
Crazy. And then in my preparation and research, I understand that old building used to have a fire slide.
Yes, it did.
So
the kids loved it.
I was going to say, tell me about this. I've never even heard of a fire slide. So what is that?
just a big round metal tube from the second floor, and they can just go out the window. They have to crawl out the window.
So you crawl out the window, and in the event of a fire, don't worry about that fire escape. Just go right down the slide.
That was the only fire escape.
Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of in commercial building management and my, professional life. And we're always talking about how many people you need to, how many people are on a given space and how wide the staircase needs to be to get people out. We've never once considered a slide. And so I'm going to take this to the...
It'd get them out quick.
It would get them out quick, and they'd have a good time doing it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Maybe we wouldn't we'd look a little more favorable on the annual fire drills that we do. Okay. You are a great friend of the Bollinger family and the podcast. So I really do appreciate you for that. You keep up with my kids and so many other kids in the gym. So just really appreciate your involvement in the lives of my kids and my family. In comments from friends, as I said before, you all look the same. You look the same as, because you've been around for so long, everybody's kind of got a story with you. And they either knew you in school or they knew you outside the school in some other ways. You're not a big man, but a man with a big personality and lots of stories. So that's something I'm really looking forward to digging into with you today. And so as a treasure to this town and great blessing to so many people, just want to say thank you again for coming today. Really means a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
You want to introduce yourself? Maybe tell us a little bit about where you were born and raised, your family, wife, kids, grandkids. Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. I'm Ed Duncan. I was born in north central Missouri on a farm. I'm a farm boy.
Okay.
Have been all my life. Even when I was down here, I had a farm going. I raised cattle. And then after it was about 130 miles from here, my farm. And I'd have to run up there on weekends or things like this. So I decided, well, I'll just turn it into grass. So we turned it over to grass and ran cattle.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, cattle like to get out through the fences.
They sure do.
So I'd have to go up through that. So we quit that. We went to CRP. And then I decided, well, I don't want to do anything. I just gave the farm to my kids. I have two kids. Tammy, she works for the government now, but she was assistant superintendent of schools in Jeff City.
Okay.
And then she retired from Union, Missouri, and her husband, Dan, he was athletic director at Union, and then at Jeff City, and he's retired, and he followed my footsteps. He's teaching driver's ed now in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah. And my son, they have 3 kids. Ian, he is a professional, he got a degree in sentimentology.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what kind of degree is that?
Yeah, what is that?
Well, he travels the world working for an M company, it's called, filming, like he filmed anything the government's doing, where there's a bunch of people. He goes and films around. Right now, he's in Amsterdam filming, and he travels the world. They send him everywhere, and he has a wife and daughter.
That sounds like an incredible experience and opportunity.
Yeah, and he was in South Africa, South Africa hired him to come down there when he graduated to teach their people how to do this, what he's doing.
Okay.
And he had a 2-year visa. And after 2 years, they kick you out.
Yeah. They say, you've been here long enough, out you go.
You've taught everybody, what you know, how to do it.
Yep.
And then their son, Carson, he's going to start teaching at Hickman. He just graduated from the University of Missouri a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And he coaches track, and their daughter, Danica Barr, she's in Fayetteville.
Am I counting 4 generations so far? So it's you and your lovely wife, Mary,
Yes.
2 kids, and their respective spouses,
Yes.
their children, and have now given you great-grandchildren.
Yes.
Okay. I'm making sure I'm following along.
Yeah. And then Danica, she's vice president of a promotion company, and she has 162 universities that buy all their paraphernalia through her company.
Okay.
Well, where she works.
Wow. Remind me to contact her next time I want some sweet university swag.
She can get them. Then my son Lance, he works for Ford.
Okay. Here in Clay Como?
Yes.
Brilliant.
So he enjoys that, and he has 3 kids, and an adopted little girl.
Right.
His regular kids, Matthew, he's a patrolman in Kansas City.
Yep.
And Shelby, she does coding for 5 or 6 doctors. And Savannah, she's staying home now because she's going to have a baby in September.
Yep.
And that'll give me 6, 7 great-grandkids. And Mary and I together have 23 great-grandkids.
My goodness gracious. You are a blessed man.
We got a lot of them.
That is awesome.
And most of them are girls.
Even better. I've got a couple of those myself, and they are a blessing.
Yeah, if you get 15 or 16 of them together during Christmas.
That's a
and
special time. It's a special time, man.
Yeah, most of them are under 90 years old. Yeah, it's good, though. I enjoy them.
That's awesome. So how old are you?
81.
81, which would make your birth year?
44.
1944. Okay, so you've seen a lot of Christmases.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. All right. How long you been married?
Well, my first wife, Thelma, we were married 50 years, and she died, 3 months after we had 50 years marriage.
Oh, my.
And Mary had been married 52 years, and her husband died 3 months before my wife died.
Oh, my.
And we knew each other through the Baptist church.
That's right.
And we did a lot of things together as groups. So just kind of fell together. And so it's been great for both of us.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
Because we both was getting pretty lonely.
Yeah, and there's a proverb that talks about the blessing of a man who's found a wife. You find favor and you find a good thing.
Yes.
So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, so North Central Missouri. So how are you now tied to the Lawson community?
Well, I came down here in 1969 as a teacher.
1969.
Yes.
And where were you teaching?
I was teaching at Wheeling, Missouri before I came here, and I was teaching driver's ed at the girls' prison in Chillicothe.
Okay.
And Paul Rogers was superintendent, and he heard we wanted to move on, so he hired us to come down here.
Okay. You know, you say you're teaching driver's ed at the women's penitentiary, and that to me sounds like the start of a fantastic joke. I bet you've got some serious stories about that.
Well, yeah, most of them you can't tell.
I didn't think so.
It was really kind of enjoyable. I mean, it was different than a regular school day.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
You had 1 girl and 2 guards.
You're trying to teach them how to drive?
Yes.
Oh, man.
See, most of them are out of inner city.
That's like asking for trouble, bro.
Yeah, we got along good.
I believe it. I don't know that I've ever seen you not get along with anyone.
Oh, there's probably some out there.
Okay, well, you know, nobody's reputation's perfect, but
that's the reason I keep working. I just love kids. Just love to be around, like Lola, Joella, and just kids like that. There's a lot of them, boys and girls.
Yep. And so you're talking about currently teaching driver's ed. You're still doing that in the summertime?
No, I quit this year.
You quit this year? Okay.
I decided my reaction times are not fast enough.
Okay.
And you got to have fast reaction times.
Yep.
So I didn't want to put the kids in danger.
That's fair. Appreciate that. But a man with a cool sense about him, right, where you don't get too worked up or whatever, is probably very good for somebody who's in that driver's seat.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
somebody who's maybe too fast of reaction time can maybe yell at them and make the experience go bad and make a dangerous situation a whole lot more dangerous.
Well, I taught driver's training there at Wheeling, Missouri, too.
Okay.
And in 26 years of doing it, we never put a dent on anything.
How about that?
And only one kid get killed in a car wreck that I know of all of them I've had.
Oh, out of all the students you've ever taught.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a pretty good statistic.
Yeah. And any of the kid will tell you, I've told them we start, I don't holler.
Yep.
And we ran off in the ditch a time or two. And in fact, I got a little letter from a girl last year. She ran it off in the ditch, and she sent me a letter when it was over thanking me for not yelling at her.
Well, you never know when you're going to leave an impression.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I enjoyed it. With Lola, I just, kids like that, they're fun to be around.
Well, we think she's fun to be around, and I'm glad to have the help, because I'm not as cool under pressure as you in certain situations.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you also like to mow, right? You're mowing the
school.
Are you mowing for the school district? Yeah.
Yes. Well, it gives you a reason to get up.
Yep.
My folks,
you've been doing that for as long as I think as long as I've known you.
Yeah. My folks, my father had a saying, you never grow old as long as you're working.
Okay.
You grow old when you quit working.
Okay. Well, we're going to dig into that a little bit.
And my father and grandfather and great-grandfather all lived up in the middle 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk about that, a guy being retired, like you say, that's not, that doesn't mean you quit working. It just means you
change jobs.
Change job, do something more in line with what you want to do if you could do anything, because you ain't got to worry about the pesky business of making money.
Yeah, see, like this mowing here, it's really good. They let me go at my own rate, do what it is.
Yep.
And like, I'm going to take off to for Alaska here in a week.
Yep.
And, they say, that's fine. We'll have one of the boys mow while you're gone.
Yep.
So
and that's one of my next things here. You're snowbirding in Texas, right? You down around Port Aransas area?
Yes.
And then, if I recall, because we've been talking about having you on for a while, you leave sometime around Thanksgiving?
No, we leave in right after Christmas.
Right after Christmas. Okay, so you're here for the holidays.
Yes.
Then you take off for Texas, and then you come back 1st April.
Yes.
Okay, so you're here for a couple months. See everybody in the family, get caught up, and naturally you're probably talking and keeping up with one another while you're down there enjoying the sun. But then you're here until middle of June, and then you're heading north.
Yes.
Driving or flying?
Driving. I love it.
To walk me through that, because the Alaskan highway, they've got people who say I've driven it like it's like somebody who's saying they ran a marathon. Like it's
no.
this is like a multi-day deal, planning your stops. I mean, this is and you're doing it with a camper behind you.
No, I'm not going to take camper. I'm just
you're just driving it.
Yeah, Mary decided we'd stay in hotels.
Okay, but you're still but you're still driving.
Yes.
Okay,
but it's I'm usually driving 7 days.
Okay,
but she said we're going to take 10 this year.
Okay, so that's 10 from Kansas City. Or from Lawson?
Yes.
Okay.
But the roads are good now.
Okay.
When I first went, they was gravel.
I was going to say it's
literally
1,000 miles of gravel.
Yeah, this is my 12th year driving, or 12th time I'm going up driving. I've flown twice.
Okay. That's incredible. But then what will you do when you're up there?
Fish.
You fish. Salmon fishing?
Salmon and halibut.
Okay.
My largest halibut's 282 pounds.
Well, that's bigger than you, bud.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there, though.
Keep cooking, Mary. Come on.
Yeah, but it's, it's a beautiful country, and the people are great. And this time of year, it gets really dark about 11, and daylight by 3:30. So I get a lot of fishing time in.
I believe it. And are you going let's see, there's a term I learned from a friend who works for Fish and Wildlife called flossing. Have you ever done flossing, or are you catching them in the mouth?
You have to catch them in the mouth.
You got to catch them in the mouth. Yeah. Flossing is like you're not using a hook. You're throwing it out there, and it's like a loop on the end of your line, and they kind of swim into the loop, and it's kind of like a snag. Anyway.
Well, up there, if you snag one, you fish with bare hook.
Okay.
And if you happen to snag one, you better throw it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to catch it in the mouth.
Very good. Other things I don't know about you, or people might be surprised to discover is about you. You're a former volleyball official. Yeah?
Yes.
I sat there one night it was between volleyball games, and you educated me on your experience doing this and how far the game has come and what some of the rules were when you were back in the day. So I was just blown away by some of the progress the sport has made.
Oh, yeah, it has. I've officiated football for 22 years.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's a no-win situation, man. That's hard. That's hard.
But you're working with kids.
Yep.
And if you keep your cool, they're going to keep their cool. And
it's not so much the kids I'm worried about as coaches and parents these days, man.
Well,
hot take.
That's the thing you see. Everything's changed so much.
Mm-hmm.
Very seldom we had anybody would, chew us out, try to, or something like this.
Yep.
And now, everybody's a coach.
Yep.
Everybody's an official.
Yep.
And I love going to games. We go to these games here and just sit there and watch.
Yep. Oh, I'm sure people watching is where it's at.
Yeah.
But I've coached a lot of baseball in this town, and some of the other teams, other coaches, I'm very respectful and appreciative of the Lawson League reps and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But some of these other coaches, man, I mean, they come at you. They come at the kids. They come after the umpires. Yeah. It's hard. And some of the other parents. So anyway.
One thing I told my kids when I coached for years.
Yep.
And parent get upset, I'd say, they're not wanting to make a mistake.
That's right.
They're doing the best they can do. And so you don't holler at them. I never did holler at a kid.
Yeah.
Because I knew when they was out there, if they made a mistake, they knew it.
Absolutely. And it's not like like you say, it's not like they're out there trying to screw up.
No,
it
they're
just
not.
happens.
And coaches ought to know by practice what the kid can do and what they can't do.
Yep. And put them in a situation to help them succeed.
So, yeah, I didn't believe in hollering at the kids, getting on them. I'd tell them, but as far as getting on them, no.
Yep. So a man who's not rattled by much, are you afraid of anything?
I try not to be.
How do you feel about spiders and snakes?
No, they don't bother me. I catch it. When I was home,
of course you do.
I had gallons of jugs of of snakes.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
I'd catch them.
Not me. I still see a snake and I don't run for it. I mean, I'll chase him down if I have to, for the sake of security and safety.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I could choose to be around them or not be around them, I'm going to choose not every time.
Well, I choose not to be around them, but I'm not really scared of them.
Okay. All right. So you've listened to the podcast. We like to ask lighthearted questions. Yeah. So I'm going to throw a few questions at you. Whatever comes to mind, let me know. Okay.
Okay.
If you could have any car you ever owned again, which one would it be?
56 Chevy Chevelle.
1956 Chevy Chevelle.
Yeah.
That sounds like an amazing car. That's good old fashioned American muscle right there.
Yeah, it was. But I probably bought it in 65.
Okay. So it had a few winners on it itself, didn't it? All
yeah.
Right. It's still quite the car. What's the strangest fashion trend you ever followed?
Well, I've really never followed any trashes.
No, fashion
trend.
Yeah,
I know, fashion.
Do you wear bell bottoms in the 70s?
Yes.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everybody did.
Everybody wore those.
Yeah.
That's not super strange, though, because the pants kind of come in and out.
Yeah. And
Did you ever wear a beard?
a beard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm all about that right now.
That's what I'm working on now before I go to Alaska.
Okay, got to keep your face warm.
Yeah, well, it's warm up there.
Okay. All right, next question. Did you ever have a nickname? Everybody ever nickname you?
Yeah.
That you can say on the air?
Oh, yeah.
What do they call you?
Corn cob.
Corn cob.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, we got a bunch of us got in a fight one day out in the cornfield. And back when I was high school age and younger, we still picked corn by hand.
Mm-hmm.
And we get throwing them at them.
Mm-hmm.
And this one kid, I hit him 3 or 4 times. And you got to throw, quit throwing that corn cob. And it just caught on.
Quit throwing that corn cob. Amazing what one comma does to a turn of phrase. That's brilliant. If your remote control had a rewind life button, where would you go first? Anywhere you want in your life, where would you go back to?
Alaska.
You'd go back to Alaska. At what time?
See, I was offered a job up there.
Mm-hmm.
And we was going to take it, my wife and I. And then her father got sick, and we couldn't go. And I always sort of regretted not going back and teaching up there.
Yeah, but 12 years in a row heading up there, you're living that dream. So it's not you got to push rewind too far. That's brilliant. What do you think it means truly to live a good life?
Be a strong Christian, love kids, enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it.
How about that? You heard it here first. That's great. Has your idea of success changed over the years?
Well, I want less. Yes, the older I get.
You what?
I want less stuff now.
Okay.
I don't need all the toys I thought I needed.
Yeah, okay. So you're chasing the stuff. Turns out you don't need to chase the stuff. So what are you chasing instead now? Like what do you do instead?
I just enjoy living. I enjoy getting up every day.
Yep.
I enjoy the people I work with.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I love coming to the games and watching the kids.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, we love it. I mean, see you guys up there. You're always in the same spot, and it's super fun to have you guys around.
And even though you don't know the kids personally, it's just fun to watch them.
Yep.
And watch their reactions to some of the things that goes on out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's an extension of watching babies. I love watching little babies. You can see them learn stuff, and being a dad, you can. I mean, there was one time I took a work trip, was gone for 1 week, and left a 3-month-old at home. And I came back, and in 1 week, that baby looked different. And just moment by moment, you just watch them grow. And so to see the way kids react to a call on the basketball court, or see how they react when they make a big shot or whatever, it's a fun experience. It's electric to be around, isn't it?
And I like to watch both teams.
Yep.
I don't have to just be ours. I like to watch both teams, see what they're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, the segue here is just like basically storytelling. We just want to hear you tell us some stories, man. On Easter Sunday, I did a post in the Lawson Announcements Facebook page. And I said, who is the most popular person, or who are the most popular people in Lawson? And these people would be extended an invitation to be on the show, and we'd talk a little bit with them. And your name came up in that list. Now, thankfully, I was already working with you and known I was going to have you on the show, so it kind of played into my hand a little bit. But I'm glad to have you here. I think what that post showed me is that there's like a community around you here in the Lawson area, recognizes your influence, your popularity, and so we just want to hear from you. We also, I think, and this is just me personally, and one of the things I'm trying to kind of advance with the show, is I want people to get to know you in new ways, right? This isn't Ed Duncan, the school teacher. This isn't the middle school principal. This isn't the driver's ed coach or the guy you see on the thing. This is the man telling maybe a story about, what would we talk about? Maybe how you stood naked in the Russian snow. You think anybody might be more interested in hearing that story?
Probably. I can tell you.
Yeah, let's get to it in just a second. But I'd also, you talk about the way things have changed and, whatever in sports, whatever. Something I'm increasingly interested in are the opinions of people who've gone before me in generations ahead of me that I can learn from. I think we can all learn from people like you in that way. So don't hold back. Don't worry about what people might think or say or do in relation to, how you feel about something. You've lived a lot of years and I think there's a real benefit there. And then also your experiences, your humor, and just your willingness to share and say what you think. So, okay. So when you think back to who you were when you were 20 or 30, how do you feel that you have changed the most? That was 60 years ago, 50 to 60 years ago. How have you changed in that period of time?
I think I've become, because you'd look around and see what other people doing and see how much money they was making, what you're making teaching school.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you stop and think about it, they don't get to work with kids.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just working for money. Mm-hmm. They haven't got nothing to show. When they leave, they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't know them.
Yeah. And you've got all those years investing and building in the future. Yeah, to talk about, and this is talking about necessarily around parents, but the legacy of, we talked with John Weir a couple weeks ago,
mm-hmm.
and, there's a proverb that talks about blessing or like arrows in the quiver of an archer, blessed is the man whose quiver is full.
Yes.
Right. And you're going to basically, children are the arrows you fire into the future that you'll never see.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're firing a lot of kids into the future and you're seeing some of them, but there's a legacy way beyond you. So I appreciate that. Is there something that you believe strongly that you've since changed your mind about? Open-ended question. Take it however you want.
Yeah. Well, the thing that bothers me is the way of course, I love sports,
mm-hmm.
and we can't get our sports things straightened out,
mm-hmm.
whether we're a boy or a girl or an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
We just, that bothers me as much as anything.
Sure.
That the girls can't have their sport and the boys can't have their sport.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, when I was growing up, girls were girls and boys were boys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that's tough, and it's really polarizing in culture and society these days, and I think it's doing more harm than good for sure.
Oh, it is.
What ways have you been involved in this community over the years? I've mentioned a few things, right? Teaching driver's ed, you were a teacher, principal.
Served on the city council 6 or 8 years, I don't remember how many years. I was on the hospital board Excelsior Springs for 12 years.
You've been very involved, and you've seen a lot of change in this community.
Yes.
And you've also been involved in and let's kind of turn into that naked story here. Building foreign relations, right, with the community and the school district,
mm-hmm.
and was it post-Cold War era, trying to figure out how these communities so far across the globe could learn from one another. You want to tell us a little bit about that program?
Okay, it's Bill Bradley he was the United States Senator for New York, played for the New York, what is the basketball team? I can't think of
the
it.
Knicks?
Yes, he played for them.
Uh-huh.
When communism fell, he had this idea that if we could get student exchanges going, we take students and they bring students here and they go. So my secretary here at school got a call one day from Washington, D.C., and they wanted to talk to me. And so I had called them back. First comment, she said, "How would you like to go to Russia?" And I said, "Are you sending me?" And she laughed like you did. She said, "No, we're trying to get 10 principals."
10 principals from the Midwest or just from all over the United
All
States?
the United States. I was only one west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
And
gosh, how'd they get your name?
I don't know. They wouldn't tell me. I asked them, how'd they get my name?
Okay.
So I talked to Bob Gill, was superintendent, and we visited about it, what we're doing. He said, I think maybe you ought to do it.
So what years would this have been?
It was the year after communism fell, 92.
92.
It
Okay.
was 90, yeah, because communism fell in November. And so he said, I think you ought to do it. So we talked to school board, and they agreed I ought to go. So I went over, and first they sent me to St. Petersburg.
Okay.
To go to the school and talk to the teachers, talk to the kids. And
now, did you go in a group?
No.
Okay. This was just you.
That was the funniest thing. When we got to Moscow, where we flew into, they gave us a packet. And in the packet was tickets. And what they was wanting to see if you could get around, how to get around.
Yeah, make your way.
And so mine had tickets to St. Petersburg. Well, there's 4 stations going out of Moscow.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you land in Moscow. St. Petersburg is a long ways away from there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to go to the North Railroad Station, find it, and go to St. Petersburg. And they had people meet me there.
Did you know any Russian?
No.
Okay. So you are a fish out of water, man.
Oh, yeah. There's so many funny. While I was there, they had a dinner for me. Well, I went to a dinner. When they found out there was an American in the area, everything changed. Everybody wanted to see what you looked like, see if you had a tail, because they'd never seen an American. And so
lots of negative stories about us, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I was invited to a dinner thing one night, and it was in the Ukraine hotel.
Okay.
And they sent an interpreter with her, and her name was Sasha, and she spoke pretty fair English. So we was sitting there at the table. Of course, there you drink vodka.
Yeah.
A lot of toast. Lots of toast. And pretty soon she whispered, she said, you need to watch real careful what you say. And I said, why? She said, the guy sitting across from me, he's the head of the SSB. And I knew what that was, Secret Service Bureau.
Okay.
And then afterwards she said, that's Mr. Putin. So we sat across from each other drinking vodka. And
you're again, okay. So you're driving, you're teaching girl inmates how to drive cars in a prison one day, and the next day you're sitting having a vodka cocktail across the table from the one and only Vladimir Putin.
And
and I agree with Sasha, bro. You need to watch what you say.
Yeah. But I met him later, about 4 years later, down in one of the famous wood carvers works down there.
Okay.
And I was
like the babushka doll type.
These are wood.
Okay.
That he carves them out.
Okay.
But he was coming out, and I was doing it, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he just kind of a little quirk with his mouth, like, I recognize you. Because he wasn't the head guy. He was just this Secret Service, which turned into the KGB. On that.
Yeah.
But the classrooms, see, the big thing over there, everybody was on the same page in the book, the same way. And when communism fell, the teachers were on their own.
Oh.
And they didn't know how to make a lesson plan because the plan was made out. They didn't know how to deal with parents, and that's what scared them to death.
Yeah, so they could teach just fine, but it was all the other preparation and
Yeah.
coordination and everything that you were kind of leading and doing over here that they needed to learn from you on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we worked with them, and I was there 10 days. And we stayed with families.
Of like Russian families?
Yes.
Within like the school district or the area that you were?
In the area you're in.
Okay.
And
so it was a true exchange.
And then on one Sunday or Saturday night, they asked me if I'd like to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And that surprised me. They're in Russia. And I said, sure. And so I got dressed the next morning to go, and they said, you can't go like that. People will recognize you're not Russian.
Oh, okay.
So they put me in the Russian clothes and the big hat and all that. And we went to this
so
basement.
Forgive me, I don't know what Russian clothes and the big hat means.
Well, it's a fur hat.
Okay.
They wear big black fur hat.
Okay.
And
so
big,
it's a stereotypical big Russian fur hat because it's so cold there.
And big, see, all I took was a suit and a black coat.
Yeah.
Long. And
they're like, nope, not doing that.
No. So we went to this basement in this building.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in and we stood, and there's probably 25, 30 people there, just this little basement, one light, and the preacher preached.
So this is an underground church, man.
They had church all the time under communist rule.
Wow.
There. They just slide in there and have church.
I gotta process that. That, never having experienced that sort of oppression, the idea of meeting to talk about, to study, to have fellowship and prayer with, with friends and fellow believers under the cloak of a single light in a basement.
Yeah.
That adds a whole new layer of fellowship and intimacy, doesn't it?
It was. I was glad I went, but it's kind of, like you said, kind of darkened your spirit a little bit about what would happen to them if they got caught.
Sure. But at the same time, and again, I'm not suggesting that you're saying otherwise, but I'm encouraged, right? That there's somebody willing to meet like that for the sake of, the goal.
Yeah, I am too. But I just thought, here these people are doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And for years under the communist rule.
Yeah. So you found yourself in church in Russia.
Oh yeah.
On the same trip.
Yes.
Wow.
And I go back to Putin thing. They did drink me under the table. And I woke up the next.
So we're back at the place where you should have been watching what you say.
Yeah.
And got a little overserved is what we call that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And next morning I woke up on the divan out in the foyer.
Divan in
then the hotel.
What is a divan? Is that like a
sofa? A sofa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I woke up there and I had a guard on the foot and one at the head with an AK-47 guarding me. So
this is freaking fantastic.
They've taken care of me. But,
yeah, just letting you walk that off, Ed.
Yeah, but no, they were great. Most of the ordinary people like we over there are just like us.
Yep,
just exactly like us.
Yep.
They want the same things. They want to be left alone. They want to raise their family, make enough money to raise their family.
Yep.
And
telling you, man, small town America, small town anywhere is the people are the same, right? Same interests, same everything. So I really appreciate you saying that.
but they were. And then I'll slide on down to what you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I was then this was on another trip.
So you went back?
Yes, they sent me back the next year, and I went down to Samara, which is south of Moscow,
Mm-hmm.
and I stayed with a school teacher.
Okay.
And they're all a bunch of jokesters. And so they wanted to go up into the Sigley Mountains, they call. They're up in the Black Woods. And so we went up there, and this had a great big place, sort of like Tantere or something like this.
Like a camp or
that,
resort community.
Yes.
Yeah.
That a lot of the people's pay was come there for a week and stay.
Okay.
And all expenses. So we were there and we went in to eat, and they probably 150 people or 160 in there eating of it.
Okay.
And had a really good meal. It was spaghetti and 2 hot dogs.
Okay.
That was our meal that night.
Oh.
And so when we walked in, they all knew they was American in the camp.
And they knew that was you.
When we walked in.
And you're the only one.
Yes.
And everybody knows it.
Everybody knows it.
Oh, boy.
And we went over and we sat down, and we went in. They was playing music and people laughing and dancing, and it just got deathly quiet. And I sat there for a little bit, and I thought, wonder what would happen if I'd get up and go ask that lady to dance.
Oh, boy.
So I did. I'm not afraid of anything.
Oh,
so
I was asking if you were afraid of anything earlier. I didn't know you'd been in that situation.
So,
or I would ask that.
Yeah, she wanted to dance, and we danced a while. And then her husband come over and had a little shot of vodka and give it to me. And then there's another man come over, had his wife, and I danced with her, and that got going on and on and on and on.
And everybody's giving you a shot of vodka to get their wife back.
Yeah. And the funniest thing, when they danced with you, they wanted to see if you were really real because they'd reach over and pinch you on the side. So it was funny. So enough of that. We went to a banya, which is a sauna.
Okay.
And of course,
this is after the dance?
Yeah, after dinner.
After dinner. Okay.
We'd had enough. I didn't dance with all them women, but
yeah.
But at least they got them back into the social, what they were doing.
Sure.
So we went, and they said, let's go to the banyas. So, okay. So, which is a sauna.
Yeah.
So we went to it. Of course, that's men and women both in the same position. Nothing on. So I wasn't used to that.
Yeah. Tell me about it. You go from, that's what I'm saying, man. You go from dancing and drinking in a, now you're sitting naked in a sauna with men and all women. Just everybody's in there together, which is so counterculture right now.
Yeah, it is. But
even in America, man,
there's probably 3.5 foot of snow on the ground.
Yeah.
And after so long in a sauna, then you got to go out and get cold or jump in the water or jump in the pool. They didn't have a pool. They said, okay, well, there's a snowdrift out there. We'll go jump in it.
Yeah, we don't need a cold plunge. We got the snow right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they opened the door and it said, Americans first. And I took off for that snowdrift and got about halfway there and the lights come on. And it was just a big circle of women all the way around. So I went ahead and jumped in the snowdrift, and I kept thinking, what are we going to do now?
Oh, boy.
The only thing I could do is just get up and walk back in.
Oh.
But the neat thing about it.
I got to paint the picture, man, in case you haven't heard. He's in a sauna. Things are going great. They trick him to running out, jumping in a snowdrift. Halfway out there, they turn all the lights on and everybody else is in on it, right? So you got a bunch of girls standing there looking at your naked body outside with all the lights
rolling around in the snow. But really,
this is so fantastic.
The great thing about it, after that, we went to bed, and next morning, probably 5:30, pounding on my door. So I went and opened the door, and there's a lady that ran the place.
The resort owner or something?
Yeah, well, she ran it for the government.
Oh, okay.
And she was so upset and crying. She said, I'm going to lose my job. And I said, why? She said, you're an American diplomat. I was on diplomatics. We had diplomats. And I said, what difference does that make? She said, if you say one thing about it, upset, they'll fire me. And I said, I think that's funny. I really think it's funny what they did to me. And I'll get even. And so...
Oh, I think we just named the episode American Snow Angel, man. That's you.
Yeah. And then, so we went the next night, we went back in.
Yeah.
And same thing. Yeah. But I called her and said, would you take a bottle of, the women drank cognac and the man had vodka. And I said, would you take a bottle of cognac and vodka at each table and give it to them? And she said, sure, she did. And I said, when you do come back, give that bill to these people that set this thing up on me. Well, of course, they made about $50 a month is all they make.
Yeah.
And they looked at that bill and they looked at each other and they got thinking, how are we going to pay for this? And I let it go on. Finally, I said, I'll pay for it. But it was so funny with that.
And get them back, you did.
Yeah. So
that is fantastic.
It was fun though.
Well, and I don't know. You were sent over there, right, to build relations, and build relations. You did, right? I mean, to go over there and be diplomatic, and it's a colorful way of doing it, but that's what that's what diplomacy is all about, man. Right? I mean, you went over there kind of questionable, and then you come back friends, and that's a fantastic example.
Well, the lady that ran that, I can't think of her name now. She said, she really thanked me. She said, "You're not what we thought Americans were."
Yep.
She said, "You're just like us."
Yep.
She said, "You like to have a good time. Things don't bother you just as long as they leave you alone."
Yep.
And she said, "We really appreciate it," because you can't believe the stories we have heard about you guys.
Sure. And isn't that true even today?
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, we're the reputations of and foreign opinions are based off of two of the most polarizing country leaders in all of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Trump and Putin today.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine people judging me based on Donald Trump or judging judging them based on Putin. Like, it's just.
But if that's all
there's
hear.
More I know, right? But there's more to it than that.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, good on you. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So, did you make lasting relationships with some of these folks and kept up with them?
I have. Well, we'd been home about 6 months, and this little girl, she had stayed with McKee's when the kids come over. Mm-hmm. And then when they went back about 6 months later, I got an email, I believe, from her.
So this is a foreign exchange student that made their way over to the Lawson area as a result?
Yeah. She had came with the group.
Okay.
But then she called and said, I got accepted to a school in Missouri, college. And could you tell me where it was?
Yeah.
And I said, well, she said, I asked her what it was. She said, William Jewell College.
Oh, you said that's right down the street, sweetheart.
Yeah, it was. It was great.
That's fantastic.
She was.
How about that? Well, I would say that's a crazy risk that you took, right? To try to go over there and figure that out. I mean, calculated, but a risk all the same.
Oh, I got thrown in jail over there and everything. But you gotta. That's the reason when you interviewed, they said, "Can you handle about anything?" And I thought, yeah, I can probably handle about anything that comes up.
You've proven that.
Yeah, I got thrown off the train, got put in jail, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, just trying to test you.
Yeah.
Just trying to see what they got, what kind of metal you're made of.
Yeah, so, it was a good experience for me.
Sure.
good experience for me.
Yeah.
And
So then you come back home, and how do you then live that experience and bring it back into the Lawson community? Like, how are you a changed person? And then what does that do for your psyche and your approach to life and the way you lead and live in this area?
well, it makes me appreciate my life more
Mm-hmm.
and what I have and what I do. And I really appreciate, probably shouldn't say it, my church more,
Mm-hmm.
because to see what these people are going through. And then, I get up tired of a morning. Do I want to go to church? And what they're going through to go to church.
Yeah. Yeah.
On that. So that changed my view, and it just, changed your whole view on life.
Mm-hmm.
How well we have it, even our probably lowest people have it better than they do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they're, back then, I think it's still the same way. Each school had a doctor, and the doctors get paid the same thing teacher gets paid.
Yeah. True communism.
Yeah. And they wanted me to go visit a hospital. And their hospital had the old, what was that, when you stand in front of it and they just showed your body, not an x-ray. I can't think what the name of it is right now.
That's all I'm thinking of, an x-ray. Like silhouette or something?
Yeah, it's a silhouette. It shows all your bones and everything they can see.
Oh, okay. No, I don't. I thought that was an x-ray, but maybe there's another term for it.
Yeah, there's another name for it, and I can't think of it.
Okay.
But that was very new to them.
Mm-hmm.
On that. But you can't believe how far we are ahead for the common people, which is us. I mean, normal, let's call it normal people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
From all of these countries, even right now, we have it better than they have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when you're isolated in your own little part of the world and you're looking around and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. It's real easy to have a poor me attitude, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
But until you kind of see how the other people live, and you're confronted with your own problems. Most people pick their own problems right back out.
Well, just for me to take a bath, they had a big galvanized tub and put warm water in it, and you sat in it and took a bath in the kitchen. That was a bath.
Okay.
And that was for most of them.
Everybody use the same water?
Yes.
That is nasty.
And the homes we stayed in, they'd be, most of them, grandparents, parents, and kids in a 3-room room. Most of them were just 2 rooms.
Yeah. You'd have like what were the rooms? You'd have like a kitchen, and the living room would all be one room, and then
one bedroom.
One bedroom, and then maybe a bathroom.
No. They had a common bathroom
Outhouse
in the hall.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
See, all of these are the
the
Khrushchev home, a hotel.
Yeah, communal living, like project style.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
That was.
Yeah.
I mean,
perspective changed. I wasn't even thinking about it like that. I was thinking a little house.
Yeah,
so you talk about projects, man. That's communism again.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah. Excellent perspective. I'm just showing my ignorance here.
No, but that's just, the way it was over there. And you got used to it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all they ever know is true, though.
Well, I mean, our college kids who go to school, I mean, that's kind of like that. It's a cheap way of putting a bunch of people into a space for a given purpose and whatnot. And now, naturally, it's voluntary as opposed to, government mandated. But at the same time, once you get used to it, I'm sure it's all right.
I was at a dinner party one night, and we were talking about the fall of communism and how much it's going to affect them. And this one guy said, it's really going to affect me. So I said, I'll never find work. And I said, why not? And he said, I don't know how to work.
Oh.
He said, excuse me, for one job, there'll be about 6 of us. And you might work 15 minutes all day. The others will keep working if they're under you, and you just stand there and watch. And he said, I don't know how to work.
Wow.
And he said it's that way for everybody. He said our age, he said the younger generation will have to learn to work. And he said, we don't have any backup money.
Yeah.
The government's not going to pay us. They pay us very little anyway.
Yeah.
And they're not going to pay us anything when we're not working.
Yeah. It's a house of cards.
Yeah. So I felt sorry for the fella, but, I really couldn't give him an answer what he could do.
Right. Right. Well, that'll change your perspective when you head back this way for sure, and live a little differently. Sounds like you appreciate things more, and food tastes a little different. Relationships look a little different.
Oh, yeah.
Hug people a little tighter, a little longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So would you say that these were defining moments of your life and career?
That was in Russia we was talking about. Yeah. Korea. Yeah, Korea is completely different from Russia. The things defining in my life, in both Russia and Korea, was their schooling.
Mm-hmm.
They, at the 6th grade, they have 3 choices, not you have, by your intelligence or intelligence testing: university, college, or work.
Mm-hmm.
And if you was into work, you just got very little schooling.
Yeah, they just said you're going to learn this job, this
basic,
trade, your task, or whatever, and
then the university is the very most. If you want to go, and you take the most intelligent. And in Korea, the kids, I stayed with a couple of families. Their kids were in the university level.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they went in on Saturdays and tutored them. And all they had was education, study. And so I, with one of the professors, and I said, just what kind of suicide rate do you have? And he said about 45% on the kids trying to get in the university. He says it's
if they don't make that class, then they just give up and okay,
because the parents are putting so much pressure on them.
Sure,
in Korea especially, that to get into that Korea, and if they can't get it, they think they're a failure. The kids think they're a failure.
Yeah,
but they said it's because I wondered if, because there's so much pressure on them kids, and I had one family there in Korea. Their daughter went to school at noon,
mm-hmm.
and she was a junior. They called 10, and she got home about midnight the first night, and then she come in. She wanted to talk and try her English out on me. We got visiting, and she said, "This is mine 6 days a week that I stay for tutoring
after
because I have to get into the university."
Yeah,
and
so you're you're there at midnight trying to talk to her in English so she can practice and help get into university.
But it was, I thought, I don't know the difference on the schooling, how it is set up.
Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward on that then, because I want to come back here. You bring that perspective back to the States. You're trying to influence and you're trying to help kids in the middle school, high school, right, in this community appreciate the opportunity and the privilege that's before them. How do you get that point across?
It's hard.
I was going to say, today, I mean, kids aren't wanting to drive because they've got people driving them everywhere. They're not interested in boyfriends and girlfriends because they can look at porn on their phones. What I mean? Like the ambition for that next season of life and the growth mentality, it's just not there in many kids. So how do you help a generation translate that?
I don't know how.
How did you? You did, didn't you? I mean, you came back a changed person. So how did you try to get that point across?
Well, you try to talk to them and tell them how good. Of course, tell them how good they got it. That don't make any sense to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no frame of reference.
And like to go on to college, or university. If you got the money, you can go. It don't matter if you fail every class in high school.
Right.
They'll take you.
Right.
They don't put you out. And over there, ours got too much to fall back on. Over there, if you didn't make it and you couldn't get a job, you had no money.
Yeah. And that's a curse. That's a death sentence.
Yeah. You had nothing.
Yeah.
And the university schooling, it means a lot to them, especially in Korea. Korea's completely different. It's a class. They have, if you're a woman and don't make the university, then you're just second class. And I mean second class.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are. And if they can make the university the first class, and then other things like when I went over, I was top of the ladder because I'd graduated from 3 universities, had a farm, I had kids, married the same woman.
Yeah.
And everybody had to bow to me.
Talk about a pedigree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we go to a dinner table or dinner, everybody had to look down when I come in on that. And a lady couldn't come and talk to me. She had to get it through an interpreter, not an interpreter, but a person to come and go with her.
A class equivalent or whatever to come talk with you.
Just to visit.
Mercy.
And, it's just, they get along fine. The women don't like it.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah. This is just, I don't know if this is all over Korea or not, but see, I was there with Rotary, and I'd taken a bunch of young business people to talk to their business people, and had a Rotary meeting, and the men went somewhere, and I went back to our room where I was staying with this family as a woman. She said, well, we women are going to go out in the street. We take a table and we have cold noodles. And so she said, would you like to go? And I said, yeah. So I went.
Why do I get the feeling you're walking into a trap?
No, I just did not realize that went on.
Yeah.
They said, we was talking, we eating the noodles, and they said, none of us was able to get into the universities, and they was 10 or 12 women. And we were talking and everything. They said, how come you didn't go with our husbands? And I said, I really didn't know where they was going, and I really didn't want to come back at the room and get some rest. See, we attended 3 Rotary meetings a day.
Yeah.
And she said, no, they've all got girlfriends.
Oh.
And I said, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, yeah, they've all got mistresses, and that's where they're going. And I said, can't you do something about it? And she said, no, we're not in the class.
Yeah, it's not.
And what would we do if, they threw us out on that? And I thought, well, I can't answer that one.
No.
Because that's what been that way for years.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and just, being steeped in the culture that we live in, if you're not exposed to it, it's not just what you see on the news that is troubling. It's there's so much more to it. And I don't want to look at it like a ethnocentric, right?
Yeah.
And from an ethnocentric way, because it's so easy to just kind of look at the religion, and I'd say the religion, the stereotypes and the culture that America is, and
Yeah.
think we've got it all right and everything we're doing is perfect. But man, it just seems like there's so much injustice in that.
Oh, yeah. But, like I said, what would we do?
Mm-hmm.
That,
I don't know.
I didn't know.
I don't know.
Nobody neither.
So how are you? So that was 30 years ago, right? And you've mentioned several other stories just in your and I's personal conversations and whatnot. So how do you kind of live your life today? You've been retired now for a lot of years,
20,
right?
Yeah. 98 to now, it'll be 26 years.
Yeah. And how are you spending your days now? What brings you joy and what gives you meaning and purpose?
Truthfully?
Yeah.
Going up and watch the kids.
Yeah.
It is. And like Lola, some of these other kids,
mm-hmm.
they come and talk to you,
mm-hmm.
visit with you, see them at church. They say hi or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the whole purpose, is just enjoy what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting that you would say that. When we had John on, and I'll ask the same sort of similar question here to you here, right? This talking about your experience hasn't been a burden for you, has it? Have you enjoyed this?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I'm glad that was a quick yes, but I guess the point is I'm trying to help bridge a gap between, like you say, Lola coming up to you and talking. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Joelle earlier. These are great kids.
Yeah.
And I told Lola you were coming over today, and she goes, "Oh, I love him." And there's a great relationship that's there, and it's deep too, right? For all the reasons that you mentioned, and she's just as what's the word you kind of use, fulfilled maybe by the relationship as I think you are. She's got you investing in her life and vice versa. So how would you, or what advice would you give a young person who might feel like they would be a burden to go over and just talk to somebody who they don't know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, age-wise, between me and you is almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm a middle-aged dude. And so between Lola is almost 50 years, right?
Yes.
And so that can be a pretty scary gap, right? You can tell there's wisdom in the eyes of the other person over there. I don't want to go over there and embarrass myself. I don't want them to think I'm stupid. How would you encourage some kids to feel comfortable coming over and talking with you, or encouraging them to talk to their grandparents, or encourage them to talk to somebody in their life?
Well, the thing they got to realize that we're all people and we all got wants, likes, dislikes, but we're not going to, like my age, 16-year girl boy come talk to me. I'm going to try to tell them what they want to know. Mm-hmm. And if they just want to know something about what I've done and things like this, tell them. Mm-hmm. Or if they have a question, try to answer it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I'm also like learning and this has been something that I learned a long time ago, but as I've gotten older, I just appreciate it more. When people get older, they tend to slow down, right? The body starts slowing down. Things just don't work like they used to. I'm feeling that in myself. I used to be able to run and do a whole bunch of stuff, and now I'm not doing a lot of running. I can still jog, I can do whatever, but some of the activity and stuff. But just because my body is slowing down doesn't mean my mind is slowing down.
No.
I'm just as engaged now, if probably more so than I was 15 years ago.
Oh, I'd say so.
Right. So So to look at the person who's aged a little bit, whose body is
Mhm.
slower than mine, but not to have the frame of reference because I haven't experienced it yet. Your minds are just as sharp as they
Yeah.
ever were in most
Oh, yeah.
respects. And so the depth of conversation is so much easier. It's so much better. So
Yeah.
we have so much to learn, right? From, like I said,
Oh, yeah.
people like you, your experiences. I mean, you're talking about stuff that was 40 years ago.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and it's, you're recalling things like it was yesterday, and we've all have so much to learn from it. And really nothing new's under the sun, right? I mean,
No, nothing new.
Yeah.
But I think that's one thing I liked about Dar's training
Mm-hmm.
was the kids and we could visit.
Yeah. They came to you.
Yeah, and we was in the car, and you know, they ask a lot of questions about things, and I give them a true answer
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on that. I didn't try to sugarcoat or anything.
Right.
But they also knew what they told me and what they asked me would stay in the car.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a saying, what goes Jamaica stays in Jamaica.
Yeah. But I knew about more going on in school than the administration and things did. Just by listening to the kids, or they'd ask me, what do you think about that? And I'd tell them.
Yeah. Driving carpool. I've heard a few of those conversations,
Yeah.
and you learn about people and
But
kids
they
and
never
reputations.
asked me to not say anything. They never knew, because they knew I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But once in a while, they'd ask me for advice.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, now, this is the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know whether they went ahead with it or not. I don't know.
Sure, but that's legacy stuff, right? I mean, that's, you're building a relationship, and then you're fostering trust, and then, out of that trust, comes the willingness to ask for advice and opinions, and that's a beautiful thing, man.
It is.
That's beautiful. So do you find yourself reflecting more these days?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about as you reflect on your life?
Well, things I could have been better with my family.
Mm-hmm.
Not so quick, to come down on them.
Mm-hmm.
Listen a little more to them.
Mm.
I had a hard time listening with my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
which she's hard-headed like I was.
Well, they say God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yeah. But we never did really have a fallout. But I mean,
Sure.
we had different opinions.
Yep. You're a lot alike.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but mainly family stuff. But then there's a thing I'd like to tell you before we quit. I don't know how soon you're going to quit.
We got time.
Okay.
We got time. Take your time.
But when I was
I got a few more questions for you, but I mean,
okay,
I want to know what you want to say before I ask anything.
yeah, I just want your opinion of this.
Okay.
When I was in Korea, my uncle was killed over there in the war.
Oh, okay.
And him and I were really close. And when they found out I had a uncle killed over there, everything changed. There wasn't nothing they wouldn't do for me. But anyway, they have
there wasn't anything that they wouldn't do for you.
oh yeah.
Meaning they wanted to serve you.
Yes.
Okay.
And, just went out of their way. But anyway, thing I run into, and I've had trouble with it. They end up, they have a big hall and big columns, and on it they got all the kids that were killed over there, where they're from and all this.
Mm-hmm.
And when they found out my uncle was killed there, they said, we can find out where they found him. And it was he laid there a year, because he was the cannon fodder they brought over from Japan when China jumped into the war.
Okay.
And he was a stopgap. And they said, we'll find out where we found the body. And so they did, and it was down at Taejon, and it has the coordinates and everything where they found it after a year. And so we went to it. Before I got to it, I had a real burning sensation. And they said was over there. And I said, no, he was right here on that.
Mm.
And, I don't know what it was, but I mean, a real burn on that.
Like a spiritual,
Yeah.
Like you knew where he
I
was.
knew exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, spiritually speaking, my opinion on that is we are living in a world where there are princes and there are powers of the air, right? I mean, there are, I firmly believe there are angels, there are demons, there are, whatever. So I don't think it's my place to say whether or not it's right or wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite possible that you had an experience like that. But back to the situation. I mean, I think it's amazing that once they found that out about you, that the way they handled you was, differently and maybe even more respectfully. It sounds like they were already handling you very respectfully, but, I had a dream one time, and I don't even know where we're going with this story here, but I had a dream one time where a friend of mine had passed away, and, he, was just a really, really great friend.
Mm-hmm.
And, about a year later, I was on a work trip in another state in a hotel, and I was asleep. And it was middle of the night, right? And in the middle of the night, somebody was like tapping on my forehead with their finger. Now, mind you, I'm in a locked hotel room, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no way somebody was tapping on me with my finger. And with their finger on my forehead, right? No way it's happening. And so I'm dreaming, clearly. I've got to be. And I opened my eyes. Now, whether I was dreaming or this was some spiritual thing or whatever, I have no idea. I opened my eyes, and my friend is staring at me over my head as if he were on the, like as if he were like looking through the wall, like over the top of the headboard. And looking down at me. And I get up out of bed and I hug him and I'm crying and I'm like asking, and all I can say is, how can this be? How can this be? And then we share a smile and I wake up really, and he was gone and I had a peace about things. Is it real? I have no idea. Is it beautiful? To me, it was.
Yeah.
So whether or not that's an angel, whether or not that was some message, I mean, the Bible's full of imagery about dreams and that sort of thing. So I'm ignorant to it all, honestly.
Yeah.
But for you to have an encounter like that, it's not my place to dismiss it.
Yeah. It was like you. I was probably 5,000 miles away from home.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And
so then were you able to, does the story end there? Did you actually go to where they found
I walked right to it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then what happened then?
I just stood there, just burning up. And then I just turned and walked away.
Mercy.
I'd taken, 2-3 flowers. I was going to lay, because said they could give me the exact spot.
Yeah.
So I took 2 or 3 flowers and laid down where I thought it was at because of the heat, and just turned around and walked away.
Mercy. That's incredible. What an experience. What a story.
But I don't know anything why, but I did. I just a burning sensation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the sort of thing that changes you, right? I mean, you have a situation, you have an experience like that, and then you make your way home, and somehow or another you got to get back to living. In a regular way.
Yeah.
And then here we are. So we look backwards. So what are you spending your time looking forwards now. How are you thinking about the future these days?
For me,
It's your question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you think about the future?
oh yeah,
Yeah. What do you think about?
basically what. Well, we've got a burial plan made, so we're not thinking about that.
That's a dark
No.
thought, but it's necessary. I mean, two certainties in life: death and taxes.
But see, my age,
Sure.
uh,
81. You
yeah,
said okay.
Mary and I we've decided we're going to take, instead of like 3 months in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to take about 2 weeks trips. We took one last September
Mm-hmm.
and just thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yep.
And we got in the car, took off, went through Denver, Colorado, and went down to Beaver
Mm-hmm.
in Utah, the very down bottom.
Yep.
Then just started working north. And, some days we make 400 or 500 miles. Other days we might make 50.
Yeah.
We
So
didn't care.
The forward thought then is go explore, go do what
Yeah.
you can with the time you got.
Yes.
And the
Well,
vacationing and the traveling is still very important to you. You don't want to
yes.
sit.
No, I don't want to sit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And spend time with the grandkids.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of grandkids that I'd like to spend more time with.
Yeah. Those relationships, right?
Yeah.
You're spending all that time reflecting on relationships you wish you had done a little differently. You got
Oh,
time
yeah.
in the future to change your behavior, and it sounds like you're
Yeah.
doing that. That's awesome.
But I like to spend time with them.
That's awesome.
And I spend time with our farm.
Yeah.
Even though I give it to the kids, I spend time up there.
You still spend time up there?
Oh, a lot of time.
Yeah. So speaking of your kids and your family, what is your hope for the next generation, including your family?
Peace.
Peace. What's peace look like?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But not what we
Not what you're in right now. Huh?
not what we're having.
Yeah. Yeah.
That we can't get along as a country.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be the greatest thing you could give them. They'll make their way because they're smart enough. They're not afraid to work.
Yep.
But it'd be a lot easier, if people could get along
Mm-hmm.
on that.
Yeah, that's what you've worked hard for, right?
Yes.
It's like a momentary affliction for the sake of a future good.
Mm.
So you've worked hard for the sake of providing a better life for your kids, and hope that they can enjoy the peace that you've worked for.
But, actually, I grew up in the right time in the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
60s, early 70s, late 50s.
Mm-hmm.
We had Vietnam, but things like this, but we got along as a country.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. We're not getting along as a country.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's protests planned this weekend, I think, for different reasons.
Oh, because they're going to do the military thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that tells you how much they care for the country.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad though when you talk about how polarized things have become, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's better to be united, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? I mean, it's better to be like let's find some uniting purpose to get behind together.
Yeah. Like, see, Mary lost her brother in World War II,
Mm-hmm.
and then I lost my uncle. And my younger brother, he didn't die, but he was in a helicopter that was shot down. He was a paratrooper, 101st Airborne.
Oh wow!
And they just
My uncle was a paratrooper at 101st Airborne.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
those were some bad dudes, man.
when that helicopter hit, it threw him out and the pilot, and they were the only ones that survived.
Mercy.
And he had a big gash up from the nose up through the forehead.
Yep.
And he was in a hospital quite a while.
Mm. Mm.
We just, we lost a lot of family members.
Mm.
So,
What do you want people to remember the most about your life?
basically how I enjoyed working with kids.
Mm-hmm.
I've told you before, I just love working with kids.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoying it, from coaching to officiating,
Teaching.
teaching.
Yeah.
being there to watch them and playing games.
Yeah.
I just, somebody that was just interested in kids,
Mm-hmm. That's brilliant.
to watch them grow. And
It's beautiful.
so I don't know what else because my whole life's been kids.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, it's a sacrificial life, but a beautiful life.
Yeah.
And so final question then would be, if someone asked you, what does a well-lived life look like? What would you say?
What did you do for your fellow man? I see so many people that just, once they quit working or quit being with the school, you never see them again with the kid, anything.
Mm-hmm.
And, they don't know. And
kind of disappear, kind of live selfishly.
Yeah. Because I feel like I got a lot yet to give. Even my age, I feel like I've got a lot to give.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like Lola or Vanessa. Who's the other girl they run around with?
These are kids in the community. I know Lola, but other kids you're talking through. Yeah.
Yeah. Them, they're the ones, we need to be thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How we can make life better for them.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great perspective. I read a book not so recently. It was probably a year or so ago. It was by Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning. And the purpose, as long as someone has a purpose, they have a more like intentional, and they're like a better life, right? They're able to survive. They're able to overcome tremendous adversity because of this purpose, right? If there's somebody waiting on them, if there's work left to do, they're able to overcome the momentary affliction for the sake of that thing that they're trying to get to. But the second somebody kind of loses that purpose, their life is over. They may be they may be alive, but their life at that point is over.
Yeah.
And just sitting here talking with you and observing your passion for working with youth and kids and, investing in time in your family and your wife and seeing this creation and going out and exploring that. I mean, you have a lot of life left to go. That's awesome.
I think I do.
That's awesome. Anything you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
No, I think they got a good idea where I stand.
I agree.
I
agree.
If it was just like today, I was down at the bank and I was standing there and this lady come up behind me. She said, "Do you know me?" I looked at her and I thought, I should. And she told me her name. And I hadn't seen her. It was one of the McKay girls.
Okay.
I hadn't seen her in years. But I mean, she recognized me. She wanted to come over and want to talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of just being a perfect stranger and going by and not to say anything. And, little things like that makes a lot of difference too.
Sure does. It sure
Especially
does.
people our age, that they remember you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's legacy, man. That's legacy stuff.
They feel comfortable enough to come over and talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're very approachable, and I love it. You don't take yourself too seriously, and it's been an absolute joy to chat with you today. I really do appreciate you coming in, and I'm like I said, so thankful that you're willing to come down and sit down with me for a few minutes.
Glad to share it with you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thank you. I really do appreciate you. This has been the Son of the Law podcast. Have a great day.
No.